Now we'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Vinaya, who is an urban designer at Perkins Will.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. I was just telling Angela and everyone else that this is a topic that's like super close to my heart. And this researching for this particular sort of interaction has rekindled that love that I had for this topic. So I'm super excited to be here and to share my knowledge on this topic and do a super fun activity at the end of it. But I realized I haven't done an introduction of myself, so I can do that now. I'm Vinaya Mani. I'm an urban designer at Perkins Will. Perkins Will is an architecture firm, and I work at the Toronto studio of Perkins Will. We're a small team working with a lot of city-related projects. We work in a lot of different municipalities in and around the GTA, and there is a very strong integration of third places as a concept in our work, and you'll see some of the examples in the presentation as well. So is it time to jump into the presentation, Angela? Can I share my screen? Perfect. Before I start the presentation, can I get a show of hands of how many participants we have? So you can try and keep it interactive. Can you put up your hand, like the little hand? Okay. I would really recommend the Urban Minds volunteers to also participate in this activity because it'll be a fun activity. And I'm sure you have a lot of valuable things to say, so I would love to hear from you all too. Okay, we're gonna jump into the presentation. Thanks, everyone. Okay, I think because I did my introduction, I'm gonna jump right into the topic. As I mentioned, today I'm going to be talking about the third place. Before we jump into the definition of what is a third place, I want to go through some of these scenarios with you all. And I want you to think of one place in your neighborhood that you can think of when I read this out. So the first scenario is it is summertime, school is off, and you want to hang out with your friends at some place other than your home or even your school. Where would you go? So that's your first scenario. You don't have to like say it out now, but then just think about it. The second scenario is you meet some people who read the same kind of books as you do, and you want to meet with them once a month to discuss your recent favorite reads. This doesn't have to be just a book or anything, something related to sports or anything really. And where would you meet this group? The third one here is you're working on an assignment and you're looking for a change in scenery to put your head down and focus. Where would you go? So we have these three scenarios. Think about the place that you can think of in your neighborhood. And you're probably thinking of a neutral ground right now. And that neutral ground is your third place. So third place as a concept was first coined by sociologist Ray Oldenburg. And in his book, The Great Good Place, you see the screenshot to your right. And this book was published in 1989. And third places have always existed, but this was the first time a name was coined. And basically what Ray Oldenburg defines is that your first place is your home, and the second place is your work or your school, or any place where you spend the rest of your time becomes your third place. So these are the locations where you exchange ideas, have a good time, and build relationships. So this is what a typical third place looks like. So you look at people in a cafe, talking to each other, and then you see a library, with students around your age. You see a playground where kids are playing, parents are hanging out, and you see a corner store where just a bunch of people are just sitting there and hanging out in that little seating with their pet and their kids. And you see this really loose kind of flexible seating here, and even like a music club. And to go back to one of my all-time favorites and a very, very cliched third place example is this cafe from the series Friends, Central Park, where all of the characters in the series hang out when they're not at home or they're at work. So this is what a typical third place looks like. And let's look into why you would need a third place. Because you happen to spend most of your time at home or at your workplace or school, and due to the kind of improvement in technology, you're able to get access to a lot of the services that you would get at a typical third place at your home these days. So what is the need for you to have a third place? So the first and like the most obvious one is human connections. Human connections are very vital, and having that interpersonal relationship with another person is essential for your well-being. Speaking of which, your mental well-being is extremely important, and third places have a role in reducing social isolation, especially in the post-pandemic times where we've lost a lot of third places. And it also inculcates a sense of belonging, where the more you participate within your community in a certain activity and then start talking to people within your community, you get more and more invested, and then you develop a shared sense of responsibility within your community. And then inclusivity, because you're interacting with a lot of people from diverse backgrounds, different age groups, different genders, you start being more inclusive towards diverse groups in your community. And that goes hand in hand with cultural exchange as well, because there is a lot of learning that is exchanged. There's a lot of cultural exchange, and you become more and more aware of different cultures and the kind of like whether it be food, the way they dress, and you start being more and more empathetic towards other people. And this is an obvious one where the more you interact with people, you get to know their different perspectives on things, you get introduced to new interests, and therefore you develop the knowledge and creativity. And in the end, what is it doing to the community? We're starting to build a very strong and resilient community. And third places act as a very important catalyst to social change within our communities. So that's why we need third places. And then I want to reiterate on the fact that after the pandemic, we've lost a lot of third places where it almost became a crime to even go to a cafe at some point, meet up with your friends at some point. And we're slowly starting to get back to pre-pandemic levels of socialization, but we're still not there yet. And as a society, we're all like dealing with a new pandemic of loneliness, where these are stats published by the Government of Canada in the year 2023. And it said more than 1 in 10 people in Canada are always feeling lonely. And this is even worse in young people between the age range of 15 to 24, where 23% of the young folks are feeling lonely. Again, another reason why we need to have these kind of third places within communities. And that leads me to two questions. Is it only an individual's responsibility to find their third place? Is it my responsibility to find the third place? Yes, to an extent. Human nature plays a huge part in finding a third place. But in addition to that, there's also policy and urban planning that needs to support creating these third places. That's where like my job comes in. That's where as future planners, some of you would be working in. So that's why policy and urban planning is very, very important. And one of the major reasons why there is a lack of third places within our neighborhoods is because of unfunctional zoning. And this is also highlighted in Ray Oldenburg's book, where, so what you're looking, before jumping into this, I'll give you a little bit of context. So what you're looking at right now is a land use map of the city of Toronto. And AKA, this is the map that tells you what can be built where. So if you look closely, all the yellows are neighborhoods and all the reds are mixed use areas. So these are mainly commercial and retail areas. And you start seeing that there are these large swaths of green sort of zoned areas, yellow zoned areas with just a periphery of commercial spaces around it. What it means is that it has formed a yellow belt, which is a planning jargon that all of us use to say that this kind of single use zoning is not efficient in developing a mixed use culture where all of our uses are at a walking distance from the individuals, like place of residence or place of work or study. So this is one of the reasons why the suburbs, especially in and around Toronto or anywhere in North America, have this problem of lack of third space. So if you look closely, so that particular grid is at least 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, which is 30 minutes of walking from one end to the other, which might be a lot for a lot of people, especially for the elder members of our community. And it is important that all of these uses are walkable, and therefore use of cars are discouraged, and then we start using bikes and walking as our main modes of like transportation, which is active transportation, to get to third places. Again, like I said, this is what our suburbs look like. Where do I find third place? Here, because I only see my first place here. Moving on, our third place is only physical. This is the second question. Do they have to be a built third place? Absolutely not. Virtual third places also play the same role as physical third places. For example, your Instagram chats or Facebook groups, or even when you find people who are interested in the same games as you, and you get on like a chat room to talk about it. All of these things are also virtual third places, and they give the support that a lot of people cannot get through a physical third place due to the circumstances they're in. So in a way, it's also a way to make it more inclusive. But the restriction here, or the limitation here, is that virtual third places cannot be altered and adapted as physical third place. What I'm saying here is that to the left, you have like different arrangement of chairs, and depending on the kind of interaction that you want to create within a space, you can move around the furniture to make it happen. If you want to sit alone, you can sit alone. If you want to sit in a group and talk about something, you can do that. Whereas with a virtual third place, or like a social media platform where the user interface is pretty limited, there are limitations there, not taking away the merits of having a support system there, but it's still not as effective as physical third places. And jumping into qualities of a third place. So what do these third places look like? Third places are welcoming and inclusive. We'll get into details of each of these as we look at some precedent images, but they're welcoming and inclusive. They're adaptable, like the image that I showed in the previous slide. All season use. They have to be usable throughout the year, safe and comfortable, and free or affordable. So the first example here is Corner Commons. Corner Commons, again, it's a very simple design. It is mostly citizen-led, also implemented by a lot of young folks just like you. And the success of this place is that it's in a parking lot. It's quite open. You see the furniture arrangement around. You see there's a central focus where the person's performing with a mic. So there's a stage, there's a focal point, and then there are these kind of furniture around that people can move around and then make it work for them. And then it's the rest of the parking lot. So you can do whatever with it. And then if you're a passerby and if you want to stand there for 5 minutes, you can do that. If you want to hang out for 2 hours, you can do that. So that way it's extremely inclusive and welcoming. And another aspect of a good, welcoming and inclusive third space is a transparent and active ground floor. Apologies for the blurry image to the right, but this is Albion Library. This is a project by Perkins Will. Also, the previous one was also a Perkins Will project. So what I love about this library project is that a library is a third space where anyone can come in and use it. It's free to use. Having this kind of transparent ground floor takes away a lot of element of surprise, which means that you're already anticipating what's going on inside. And once you see someone who looks like you or doing the same kind of things that you want to do, you get more interested and you're drawn in. So this is a very important aspect of building third places, and this can also scale up all the way up to like a residential tower where the ground floor can have like communal spaces or retail spaces that have a certain degree of transparency built into them. So what's people who are inside can connect to the outside. From outside, you can connect to the inside. Same with this other example in Richmond Hill, also a Perkins Will project. This is another great example of incorporating transparency into a community project. And moving on to adaptable, this is the Bentway. Some of you might have visited the Bentway if you're part of Urban Minds, and those who have not, please go visit it. It's a great all-season space. It's also extremely adaptable. So the walkway that you're seeing here where people are sitting down and eating, it's also the trail that connects Fort York Boulevard all the way to Garrison Creek and then to Liberty Village. So the pathway is part of the public realm, but it's also part of the project itself, where like the underside of this of Gardner Expressway is taken advantage of to create like series of public spaces. What I love about this place is that it totally transforms when there's an event. Right now you see it's pretty chill. You can go sit there and read a book and it's nice. And it's so much more vibrant and dynamic during summer, like when the events, and during winter it turns into a skating rink. This is another great adaptable space that was all over the news during COVID-19 pandemic. People find a way to adapt their open space or their third place to make it work for them. So this is a great example of creating these social distancing circles in the park where you can still like sit down and enjoy reading a book or having a snack and still interacting with your friends who probably sit in the nearby circle. Another adaptable space is Nevenfield Square. A lot of great other qualities to it as well. It's also a very welcoming space in terms of having a very active periphery with the food stalls and everything. So there are layers to that kind of there are layers to how the space welcomes you into the space. So it is a fully sort of municipal building, but it still has like adapts to different seasons and different celebrations to make it work. and the kind of pedestrian footfall that traffic that this place sees is just impeccable, and it manages so well. And this is Nathan Phillips Square in the winter, where it adapts to be a skating rink, and you still see the same amount of people or even more during these times using the space. So this is a third space for a lot of people who live in downtown Toronto, and also people who live outside. And safe and comfortable, it's very important for your third place to be safe and comfortable. Like you need to so there needs to be adequate lighting, it needs to be on a public facing street, it needs to be it needs to have the people that you trust and believe and feel comfortable to be there. So this is an example of this is a great example of how light is incorporated into a public space, where it kind of becomes part of this, it becomes an artifact in itself, where the lower part of the tree is lit up, and not taking away the aesthetics of it, the place still looks very warm and welcoming and stays lit throughout the night. So different groups of people can still use. And I also wanted to include this.
Yeah, sorry, we had to go to the next section. So can you wrap up the presentation?
Yeah, almost at the end of it.
Okay, thank you.
Safe and comfortable space. Wanted to include this example because wanted to show that third places have always existed. We just never put a tag on them, and now we have, and it's all the more important to create more of these. It needs to be free and affordable. Goes without saying. You shouldn't be spending a lot of money to access your third place. These are some great examples of free movie nights and yoga in the park activities. Again, bringing back the common example of how you could be a youth volunteer in your community and then start giving back to your community. And that's also a great way to find your third place and be be a core part of your community. And now we're getting close to our activity. So how do I find my third place? So the first step here is to identify your interest. So there could be like 100 different things you would want to do. You might want to like prioritize the things that you are interested in. I want to learn music. It could be like, I want to learn art. I want to, I don't know, meet new people. I want to try new kinds of food. So all of these could be your interests. And you need to explore your neighborhood. You can just go around your neighborhood, go on walks every day to find out what exists in your neighborhood and what interests you, even if you don't know what your interests are. And you can talk to people or just one person who has similar interest as you, and that can help you find your third place. And then you need to personalize your space. There are different ways you could do that. You can go to a place and then alter it in a way that it works for you. And in the end, you need to try it. Like you need to do these things multiple times till you find your third place, that kind of neutral ground where you feel comfortable and you can communicate freely and be part of a community. Of course, in the steps, we looked at identifying your interests as the first step, but actually any of those things can be your first step. You could just talk to someone and then figure out that you have mutual interests, and you could start from there. And like I said, just by walking through your neighborhood, you might see something that might interest you, you might start there. So there's no sort of definite rule in terms of how to find your third place. You can basically start from anywhere, but identifying your interest is definitely a big part of it. Hope everyone enjoyed the session. I'm dropping the link to the Menti meter here. So please go in and add your responses. Think of the first three scenarios that I asked you to imagine and drop your responses there. And let's see what that looks like. Thank you.
Yeah, and also for the trivia, we have our winners that just came in. First place, we have Daniel, Catherine, and then we have Angela in third place. And there also will be prizes, which is a $10 e-gift card choosing from either Visa, Starbucks, or Amazon.
So remember that from attending this webinar, you're able to receive 1 volunteer hour. Please email your volunteer form to hello@urbanminds.co before January 17th, which is 1 week from now, to have your form signed. Some upcoming events we have is our 6th OneUp Connect webinar. This webinar will be on the making of urban design policies and laws and will be occurring on Wednesday, February 7th from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. with guest speaker Norm van Eden Petersman, who is the founder of the nonprofit organization Strong Towns, advocating for more livable and financially sustainable planning practices in municipalities. We also have our OneUp conference coming up in the spring, which is a flagship event where you'll be able to network with other high schoolers interested in city building and also meet professionals in the field of whom you can ask questions and learn about what they do. We'll have a fun downtown Toronto scavenger hunt where we explore the city's diverse neighborhoods in search of specific prompts, as well as a team design jam where participants collaborate to develop a proposal to improve an existing place in Toronto. Winners of the Design Jam will win 3D printed trophies and a collective $300 cash prize. After, we'll have all one of school chapters participating in the Design Build project to present their proposals for a chance to compete for an additional $1,000 in funding for their project. This event will occur on Saturday, March 23rd and to Sunday, March 24th. So stay tuned for registration signups. And if you haven't already, make sure to check out our social media. Our TikTok and Instagram is at OneUpToronto, and we also have our website and email listed here. As well, we have a Discord channel that you can join to stay up to date with our events. Thank you for joining us for our 5th webinar, and have a great evening.